another edition of the new ND Nation Radio.
We're going inside them. We're going outside them. Inside them and outside them. And when we get them on the run once, we're going to keep them on the run.
And Notre Dame, as number one goes down, Syracuse undefeated no more.
This is now top-notch college hockey.
Everything here at Notre Dame has been done on faith and a commitment to excellence. You are Notre Dame. You are special.
You would impart some wisdom or some tips on the guys coming in.
I would probably say stay on top of your academics.
Look out, he broke free at the 30, 35, 40. The Rocket is trying to do it again.
And you're also going to walk out of here with a degree from the University of Notre Dame. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
You know, this play like a champion sign, Rocket Ishmael's touched many times. Jerome Bettis has touched many times. You know, the best stadium you play in, I'm going to say Notre Dame.
We're going to get them on the run. We're going to go, 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 go. And we aren't going to stop until we go to that goal line. Don't forget, man, today, we're going to win.
Well, Steve, Jason, guys, I have the honor and the privilege of introducing our very first guest to the new ND Nation Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor that we're going to have Mr. Coach Lou Holtz on the air with us today. Lou, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine. Delighted to be with you.
Thank you. It's our honor to have you on, Coach.
Well, appreciate it.
And, Coach, before we go on, I have to introduce you to my co-host here. We have Jason Kripe. Jason's from South Bend.
Hi,
Coach,
Jason.
how are you tonight?
I'm doing great.
How are you?
If only better I get a job.
You're playing plenty of golf, though, aren't you?
I'm not playing well. You know, I'm quite old and don't have as much strength. And since the car accident 2 years ago and the neck surgery, I just don't have real good balance, don't have a lot of strength. But you know what? I do still enjoy it, though.
Now, Coach, we also have another co-host here. He's from Boise, Idaho. He's a big fan of yours. This is Steve Herring.
Hi, Steve. How you doing? I did a lot of Boise State games out in Boise and spent a lot of time there. They're great people, and boy, you have a great program going there.
Well, I am a fan of theirs. I'm not from here, but I do live here now, and it's a real special treat to have you on, Coach Holtz. Something I wanted to, tell you off the start. I actually met you when I was 6 years old on the campus on a family vacation, and you talked to me and my brother and sister and my dad and told us to work hard and stay in school. And I'd never heard of Notre Dame before that day, and I kind of morphed into this diehard Notre Dame fan, and it really was a result of that meeting. And I just wanted to thank you, and I'm excited to talk to you. It's a real honor to have you on.
Well, thank you. I hope you feel that way when this program's over.
I'm sure that I will. I don't have any doubt of that, Coach.
Well, Coach, I'll go ahead and get the interview started here. I know we only have a little bit of time, and like I said, we're very happy to have you. My first question to you is in regards to, you actually have a statue at Notre Dame Stadium, and when you walk around the stadium, you see all the great things, all the All-Americans pictures, all the Heisman Trophy winners, and including the coaches. There's not just you there. There's Newt Rockne. Coach Parsegian has one. I mean, to name more. What does it mean to you to have your statue there represented at the University of Notre Dame Stadium?
Well, first of all, I figured what they did was need a place for the pigeons to land. I didn't know, but it's a highlight of your life, certainly. To have a statue anywhere is very flattering, but particularly to have it at the University of Notre Dame, which I think is the greatest place in the world. I had 3 children graduate from there. But, here's a young man that went to a Catholic grade school, taught by the Sisters of Notre Dame, marched out every day at noon, recess and dismissal to the Notre Dame Victory March. I wasn't going to go to college. Nobody from our family had ever gone to college. But because of my high school coach and my college coach, I ended up in coaching. But you don't go in and say, well, I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to coach at Notre Dame. Yeah, you want to, and they're going to build a statue. It's just something that happens. You live your life every day to the very best you possibly can. You live by a philosophy. You follow that philosophy. And when it's all said and done, you look back and you say, wow, I never expected this to happen. That's exactly how I feel. I feel very flattered, but it wasn't my intention to have that happen. You just do the best you can every single day.
And Coach, let's kind of go back, because I'm curious just out of regards to, you got the job at Notre Dame. It's a huge process. We heard all about Coach Kelly going through his time there. Talk about the hiring process at Notre Dame, how you were presented with the job, and how you ended up being contacted for the position.
Well, Notre Dame, man, we've never talked much about this, but I think I can now because Father Joyce has passed away. But I was at the University of Minnesota when Notre Dame contacted me, and Gene Corrigan came up to visit me, and he said, we want to do everything we can to help Jerry Fowles succeed. We love the man. We want to do everything he can. But in the event that he does leave eventually, we don't like to pick out the coach at the last minute. So we wanted to visit with different coaches around the country, and a couple of questions we want you to understand. That there are certain things at Notre Dame are not negotiable. And I said, what are they? And he said, well, we don't take transfers. We don't redshirt. We don't have an athletic dorm. We don't have good facilities, and we don't plan on improving because we don't want to get in the arms race like everybody else. We got a bigger weight room. We want them to come to Notre Dame because they want to be part of our family. We're going to play the most difficult schedule we can find, and they lived up to that, I will say. And we expect to be competitive for a national championship. And he said the other thing is not negotiable. He said we have a policy that the head football coach was not allowed to make more than the president of Notre Dame. And then I found out the president of Notre Dame was a priest that took a vow of poverty. Now he said, we're bringing these things because these things are not negotiable. If you were to end up at Notre Dame, we don't want you to come there thinking, well, we'll change this or that. He said, no, we're talking to different coaches. He said, this is nothing about you coming to Notre Dame. All we want to do is find out who would be interested in Notre Dame with understanding these parameters. And he didn't say anything that would keep us from winning. He didn't say you could only play with 8 and everybody else has 11. What he did say, there's going to be problems, there's going to be difficulties in anything you do. And I said, no, those don't present a problem to me. And he said, once again, we want to do everything we can to help Jerry Fowles win. We love the man. Well, when Notre Dame ended up making a change and did not renew Jerry Fowles, then Father Joyce called, and he said, we have decided that you're the man we'd like to have lead Notre Dame. Do you understand the things that we aren't going to change, academics, et cetera? And I said, yes, and he said, with that, we'd like you to be the head coach. See, what they did, I didn't realize this, but they had the head coach picked out before the other one left, so that there isn't all this, everybody getting in, ought to be this guy, that guy, and then you go to a coach and say, you interested in Notre Dame? Well, if he hadn't been contacted by Notre Dame, he's going to say no because it hurts his school, and if he doesn't get the job, and so I said, Father, I really want to be at Notre Dame, but I've got to check with my family. My youngest son was a diabetic. He was a freshman in Minnesota. I had a daughter who was junior in high school. And here's the irony. I go back home to talk to my wife. I said, I'll call you in the morning, Father. I want to do it, but my family's my first obligation. So I go home. We talked about decide I could go to Notre Dame. Kevin would be all right. The phone rings. I was offered a job at Southern Cal the same night. The next morning I called Father Joyce and said, yes, and he said, great. He said, we're playing Miami. We'll do the press conference next Monday, the announcement. I said, fine. He called me back a little bit later that day. He said, no, there's too many people deciding who should be the coach. He said, we want to put an end to it. Notre Dame leaves for Miami at 11 in the morning on Wednesday of Thanksgiving. He said, we'll have the press conference at 1 o'clock. And that's how I ended up at Notre Dame.
That's an amazing story. I'm a younger kid, and I'd never really heard the details of that because those
I have never shared those before, but that's exactly the way it happened. And the whole thing about they wanted Jerry Fowles to succeed, but they had foresight of saying, okay, and I didn't know. They said they're talking to many coaches just to find out who would be a possible candidate before that happened. And I didn't know. Maybe they talked to 20 other people. I don't know, but that's exactly how I ended up at Notre Dame.
Well, Coach, and thank you so much for answering those questions for me. I know my co-host Jason's jumping at the bit to talk to you, so I'm going to give him that opportunity.
Hey, Coach. One of the things we're founded on, and it was when we first started our group, we were founded on giving back, and that's the core of what we do with fundraising and everything else. And we feel that, when you see good people with a great cause, the right thing to do is to help. And you, with so many others with ties to Notre Dame, you do the same thing through the Lou Holtz Charitable Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about that foundation and the goals that it achieves?
Well, when I left the University of Notre Dame, everybody needs 4 things in their life: something to do, someone to love, something to hope for, and someone to believe in. Well, we decided that we should start a foundation to give back. And so I wrote 3 New York Times best-selling books. We took the money from those book sales and the advancement, every cent of it, and we started our foundation. And we have never charged a cent to the foundation for expenses or anything else. And we don't do any high-profile fundraising or things along that line, but there are 3 purposes of our foundation. The first one is education. We've endowed, I think we have 4 scholarships at Notre Dame. We have 1 at Arkansas. We have 1 at Kent State, etc. And we also provide $50,000 a year in scholarship to trade schools each year in the Ohio Valley. My wife and I both graduated from East Liverpool, Ohio. We could not thank the people enough for the values that we were taught. And the steel mills are down, the potters are down, so we try to give people a trade. I think at last count, 27 of our graduates are working for Hills Trucking, and that's like $45,000 a year they make. We have people that are in culinary. In addition to that, we give $10,000 to $15,000 a year in teachers' grants because, the budget's so poor. So that one phase is education. The other phase that we do is medical. As you know, my wife's a stage 4 cancer survivor, and so we support cancer. But my youngest son, Kevin, who's now 40-some, and 3 of our children graduated from Notre Dame, including Kevin, and not only graduated from Notre Dame, he graduated from Notre Dame's law school. We almost lost Kevin twice due to the diabetes. He has a problem when his blood sugar gets low. He can't tell it, and he goes into a coma. A lot of people, when they have diabetes, when their blood sugar gets low, they can tell it. So the insulin pump has saved his life, and now when he gets low blood sugar, it goes beep, 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 beep. So because it changed his life so dramatically, one of the things our foundation does is we provide insulin pumps to children around the country that cannot afford it. Now, initially, they cost $7,000 a pump. But thanks to our work with Medtronics, we're able to get it at a much lower cost now. And the third thing we try to do is we try to promote religious causes. We don't promote a religion even though we're very devout Catholics, but, whether it be the retired priests or retired nuns or things along that line. So those are the 3 main purposes of our foundation. And we don't do a lot of publicity with it, et cetera. But as I said, the initial fundraising was started from the proceeds of the books I've written.
That's amazing. Yeah, we've actually got a couple of your former players on hold here, Jeff Burris and Oscar McBride, and they're coming on the show to talk about Play Like a Champion Uganda, the initiative through Notre Dame. So it's amazing to talk to people like you and the Notre Dame family. We've been blessed to have several many great guests on and who are affiliated with the university, and it's amazing to see that even after their time at Notre Dame and in professional sports or what have you, that they're always out in the community and they're always doing something back, and it really showcases the spirit of the University of Notre Dame. So, it's an honor to have you on here and hear what you talk about. And, on that note, I know Steve had a couple questions, so I'll pass you on to him. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Coach Holtz, Steve Herring here. I wanted to ask you a quick question. Notre Dame started spring ball this week, and the big talk is about the quarterback race. I wanted to ask you what you would talk to if you had 4 guys in spring practice vying for that one ultimate position at the University of Notre Dame.
Well, the main thing is the competition's not with each other. The competition's up in Ann Arbor and Los Angeles, where Southern Cal's located. That what we want to do is we have to have great leadership at quarterback, and I think it's difficult to give four people an equal break at it. I think you have to come out of spring practice with a starting quarterback. Now, I've played two quarterbacks in every half of every game on different years, but the team always knew who our number one quarterback was, without a doubt. And it wasn't going to be predicated upon whether he threw an incompletion or completion, et cetera. He wouldn't be our quarterback, but I did play two so that he could get experience, and if something happened to number one in the eighth game of the year, we're still the national championship race. But I think the quarterback is absolutely critical. You can't win in football on any level without very production at quarterback. Now, sometimes you ask the quarterback not to lose the football game, and we will win it if the quarterback doesn't lose it. But most of the time I felt the quarterback and I were on the same page, that we could win no matter who showed up. I think the quarterback's absolutely critical. I put tremendous pressure on him in practice. I was very difficult on him. I was tough on him, mentally abused him, did everything in this world, because when they went into that game, they would not feel pressure regardless who we're playing or what the situation, because they were forced to focus during practice. Now, I'm going to go down tomorrow and watch Skip's practice, and then I'm catching an airplane to Alabama. I'm speaking for Nick Saban and his coaching clinic this weekend. I'll watch Alabama practice both days, and it'll give me a little bit better idea where South Florida is.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned Skip Holtz, and he played under you. And I want to introduce it. They're in the chat room right now. We have two of your former players, All-American defensive back Jeff Burris, and starting tight end of the 1993 team, Oscar McBride. Welcome to the show, fellas.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me on. Hey, Coach, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Let me say this on both these young people. I'm very proud of both of them, both class young men. Jeff Burris, recruited him out of Little Rock. He played for a friend of mine many years ago. He played down there at Little Rock, and I remember his grandmother. I remember being in his house. He came there. He was a great offensive football player, but he also was a great defensive back. We moved the defensive back the week we played Tennessee when he was a freshman, and we started with the defensive secondary against Tennessee. In Tennessee, we won the football game. He never looked back, but he was so good. We ran the T formation on the goal line, and he was one of our running backs. He did both. As a matter of fact, when we played Florida State in '93, Florida State had not given up a rushing touchdown, as I can recall, the entire year. This is the 10th game. Jeff Burris scored 3 touchdowns in 3 attempts running the football. But went on to play great in the pros, and Oscar McBride just was a hell in the tradition of great tight ends we had that went on playing the pros. It started, we had a guy named Frank Jacobs that we recruited, Andy Heck, then Frank Jacobs. Frank hurt his leg at Air Force, decided to go the baseball route. He helped recruit Derek Brown, who started for us a freshman. Derek Brown recruited Irv Smith. Irv Smith recruited Oscar McBride. Oscar McBride recruited Pete Levy. And so even though we didn't throw the tight ends an awful lot, they all had a tradition of coming to Notre Dame, being productive, and going on and playing in the pros. But more importantly, we're talking to two great young men here.
Coach, thank you. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Coach.
It was funny, Coach. I had the opportunity to sit with Jeff a few months ago, back in, when was it, Jeff? Was it November?
In November,
in Indianapolis. And we both coach high school football now on top of the other things we do. And it's funny, we were sharing some stories, and the more we coach, the more we sound like you.
Well, I will tell you, I used to bitch about Woody Hayes all the time. I became a coach. I coach just like him. I'm flattered and honored about that. But I think coaches like raising children. You know, Yeah. You have to have standards for them. You want to make sure you criticize the performance. You don't want to criticize the performer. You have an obligation to make sure they have a chance to be successful, and the only way you can do that is to get them out of their comfort zone, because most players don't realize how much talent they have, how good they can be, and it's a maturing process. But I absolutely love coaching because, you know, you can go make a lot of money, but when you die, that ends. But when you coach, you have a chance to be significant. And the difference is, when you're significant is when you help other people be successful, and that lasts many a lifetimes after you're gone.
Well, Coach, I want to intercede and say something. I want to thank you for that, because I listened to a lot of what you were saying before, but in my life, you have been that example. And like Oscar just said, I'm actually coaching at UMass now. And one of your former coaches, Phil Almation, we talk about you every single day, and every single day. And I just recollect all the times, and I have a lot of your things that I use, like Oscar just said. We do a lot of things that if I can become just a small percentage, 0.5% of what you were as a coach and as a man, I think I'm doing something in my life. So I appreciate you for everything.
Well, I tell you what, Jeff, I know you went to UMass. I'm proud of you. They're making the step up to the national championship division. You'll be playing all the very best and probably end up in the Big East, I imagine, in the near future. But let me say this, Ed. When I put together a book, what I call the Bible, and it has everything I believe in football and schedule, I'll be happy to send you a copy of that. In addition to that, I made a list for this coaching clinic I'm doing of all the fundamentals I think that are very important at each position. And you drop me a line, I will be happy to send you both of them.
Okay.
But this, all you have to do, coaching is simple, is do three things. Number one, ask your players to do the right thing. This is nonsense about allowing them to do what they want to do when it's not the right thing. Just do the right. Number two, don't ever accept anything less than the best they're capable of doing, because you're cheating them. And number three is make sure they care about other people. When they walk in the room, their attitude can't be, hey, here I am, look at me, it's all about me. Their attitude has to be, hey, there you are, how can I help you, what can I do? And the team is far more superior than the individual.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for that. I will be shooting you a line shortly afterwards.
I do whatever I can to help you. Coaching's a great profession, and I'm looking forward to going up and speaking to the coaches at Alabama. When Nick Saban called me, I said, good Lord, you won the national championship. They don't want to listen to the old hands band, but he said, yeah, so I'm going to go up there.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, I know I had one more guy who had a couple of questions for you while we had the guys on here. Jeff and Oscar, I know you guys are really close to Kevin Dugan with Play Like a Champion Uganda. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Congratulations, Kevin. I've seen the pictures of the work you've done, Play Like a Champion today in Uganda, and congratulations.
Thanks, Coach. You know, I don't really have so many questions other than I have a couple statements on, like, the power and the impact that your philosophy has really had. And, you know, I've coached lacrosse for 10 years, and I'm now in management in youth and community programs in the athletic department here at Notre Dame. But, you know, there's a saying that Oscar and I talked about quite a bit on a recent trip we made to Uganda, and that's that, you know, businessmen, when they die, they leave behind money. Coaches, when they die, they leave behind pieces of their soul in every single one of their players. And Oscar and Jeff and I have been just talking a lot about, you know, the opportunities that we have to make our lives count through coaching and through teaching, mentoring, and impacting young people. And I want to tell you just a really quick story right now. And, you know, this was about 2 years ago. Oscar and I are in the middle of a rural Ugandan village, and we're giving a lesson to literally like 1,500 people that are all huddled around this open field outside of this church in rural Africa. And you know, they have this little homemade Play Like a Champion Today sign, and Oscar lifts it up and he says, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you about what this means, and this means that every day you have an obligation when you wake up to realize the fullest God-given potential that you have and to be the absolute best you can be at whatever it is that you're doing. And you know, when Oscar kind of started to talk about that, he talked about you and this idea of play like a champion. Do you care about me? Can I trust you? And, you know, it just kind of got, you know, it became a very real thing to the pastor at this Catholic church that, you know what, we need to emphasize the ability that sport has to teach these types of life lessons. And now Oscar and I are heading back in just a month and a half to go back there with 12 Notre Dame students, including 10 student athletes, to share that message that, you know, play like a champion today isn't about walking out onto the field and winning a football game. It's about walking out into any moment of your life and realizing your absolute full potential at, you know, at whatever it is that you're doing. And I want to thank you for that inspiration that you know, that you've provided to countless Notre Dame athletes, but, you know, even beyond that, you know, people that get the big picture of what play like a champion today really means.
Well, thank you. You know, I went to Notre Dame. First thing I did, I went back through and I wanted to look at all the history of Notre Dame. And I go to the library, I get all the books, and in one of the books, there's a picture of a sign, play like a champion today. And it's an old book, and I asked, what about that sign? Nobody ever knew anything about it. And I said, well, that's really what Notre Dame's all about. We're going to get that sign printed up. And the lady printed it up and got it patented, I might add, made a lot of money off of it. But, you know, that is how that sign came about. Now, I put it back up, but I wasn't the original. Rockney or somebody many years ago put it up. But I'm happy that good Lord led me to the library and led me to that book and the impact it's had on so many people. And when you talk, I also say now, live like a champion today. Playing like a champion, but let's live like one also.
Yeah, you know what's funny, Coach Holtz, you mentioned how somebody patented that. What's funny about it is Packy Kelly has gone on and helped us finance all these women in East Africa who have this women's group, a bunch of AIDS widows, and they are weaving play like a champion today mats out of banana fibers. So there's women that are making a living off of now making those mats and selling them to Notre Dame sports fans that wanna obviously celebrate the tradition of what that sign means and represents, but at the same time advance the common good. And it's one of those kind of nowhere else but Notre Dame moments that we've been able to capture. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Well, I just enjoyed being at Notre Dame. It's a special place. When people ask me what makes it special, I say, you know, if you've been part of it, no explanation's necessary. If you haven't, no explanation will suffice.
Yeah.
Well, I think, Coach, the biggest thing about what makes Notre Dame are the people like yourself and like Kevin Dugan. I was fortunate enough last year to go to Haiti on behalf of the Luz Lad, and it changed my life. And I was fortunate enough to, through Oscar, and have a chance to sit down with Kevin, and you saw a young man with purpose in life. And I always reflected on one of the sayings you used to tell us quite often, that if something happened one day and you were not here, would people miss you, and why? And I look at my life every day like that, because I want to make sure that I'm affecting someone in the right way, like you did in my life, like Oscar has as well in my life, like Kevin has in my life. And you know, watching Kevin and with his mission in Uganda has been incredible. And once I saw it, I saw pictures and things, and after coming from Haiti, I told him I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to, full-heartedly be a part of it. But unfortunately, due to the coaching realm, I won't be able to go, but my heart will certainly be there. And it's a reflection of you and Notre Dame and the people that are involved in this whole outreach and programs that are going on.
Well, Jeff, you make a great point, and I think all of us should ask our question, if I didn't show up, who would miss me and why? And the people that are being missed are those that are productive. The people that take and do absolutely nothing except bitch and moan, never contribute anything, they would not be missed if they didn't show up. It's always the productive people that are helping other people that are the ones that are missed. And that's a great aspiration for all of us to live, whether it be at home, at work, or in life in general.
Well, Coach, I have to say this one thing. Coming from a really small town of 3 stoplights when you recruited me in 1989, come out of Florida to have the opportunity to come to Notre Dame and play for you and play for such a prestigious university was an absolute joy and an honor. And I can honestly say this. I listened to you say this for 4 years, that you don't really appreciate it until you're no longer there. I would listen to you say that.
I told you, I said, you have no idea of the impact Notre Dame has until you leave here. Then you're going to understand what a special place this is, and I believe that in the bottom of my heart. I also used to tell you that I traveled all over the world, made thousands of dollars speaking, and I would speak to the football team for free. You didn't take a doggone note.
Not one.
You guys would just sit there and act like you're bored. That's right. Everywhere else, people got notes. I said, my gosh.
We didn't get it. It went over our heads.
We regret it.
And we look back, and again, it's a part of the conversation I had with Jeff last year. It's like, we were 19 and 20 and 21 years old. We didn't get it. But, not only did we have a great football coach, we had a great life coach. We had a mentor. We had a father figure. We had someone who was giving us these tidbits that we could draw from later as fathers and husbands and leaders in the community. And people were doing outreach in Haiti and Uganda and living to stand for something more than just ourselves. And long after the football days are over, long after your professional football career is over, your collegiate career is over, those are the things that make my experience and Jeff's experience and Kevin's experience at Notre Dame special, because you were a part of that. And when I say I sound like you, Coach, I'm telling you right now, the one thing that I've adopted is the I can't. When you say I can't. I remember that like it was yesterday. And I think it was past 525 Erie that I was running, and I just never could get that route right. And I remember you saying to me, son, I can't. I said that last year one time. Coach, I think I said about 20 I can'ts. I was on the field. Everybody on the whole field, including the other coaches, stopped and looked at me. Because my tight end couldn't run a banana route the right way.
I never felt I coached football. I really did feel I coached life. And, the same qualities that I felt that you needed to be a good football player, you needed to be a good person as well. But somebody said, what was the biggest difference with the Notre Dame football players than other places? I said, the biggest difference at Notre Dame, when I gave them a questionnaire, I had to get out a dictionary when I read them. Words I didn't even know what they were. I thought, my goodness.
Well, Coach, you appreciate this. We talk quite often. I call Oscar and I call Agent Zarrell. We're calling one another, and we're like, hey, you remember what Coach used to say about this particular event in life? You still have that written down? So we call each other reflecting on what you taught us, although we didn't write them all down.
No, I tell you what, I just loved the players, and I look back and I have as many memories as y'all do. I want to tell you, the amazing thing, I learned so much from football players as well. You learn how different people react, etc. Well, the great thing is to see people enjoy success because they worked at it. And the one thing I have learned in coaching, the people that you gave an opportunity without them earning it never really appreciated it. It was the people that had to work hard in order to achieve success and overcome milestones and get up off the ground. That's what life's all about. And you can succeed when no one believes in you. But you have no chance to succeed if you don't believe in yourself. And I think part of the coach is getting athletes to believe in themselves of how good they can be.
You definitely did that, Coach, and you made us believe in each other.
Yeah.
When you said don't flinch, a part of how we win, that last point, don't flinch.
Don't flinch. You always have to believe you're going to win. And that plan of how we'd win, we put up on the board, toughness, fundamentals, etc. But, it's not complicated in how we do things. But it's just been a fun ride. And so many things that started at Notre Dame is crazy. The team mass at Our Lady's Chapel, that happened in 1988 because they wouldn't let me have our team mass where we normally did in Dillon. And so I went to Father Jenke and said, can we have the team mass at Our Lady's Chapel? He said, I don't think so, Coach. And I said, well, golly, Ned's, I just need it 1 week. He said, but we have church open. People come. I said, that's fine. They don't come back behind Our Lady's Chapel anyway. And then we walked out there and went to the stadium, and that's where we had our team at. And that's where the people start lining the lines. Now you have thousands that go. And how'd that happen? Because Father Jenke allowed us to have it happen against Michigan in '88 and every game since then.
Wow. Didn't know that one.
Special thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many things that happen because God so. As Skip always says, if you want to make God laugh, you tell him what your plans are.
I like that.
We'll
Coach Holtz. I wanted to step in and, Coach Holtz, you had promised us 15 minutes, and you've given us almost 40 now. You've been absolutely unbelievable. This whole thing is actually amazing. So I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for coming on, but I'll let you go. I know how valuable your time is, and we worked hard to get you on. So I wanted to thank you so much. And, I mean, I can't even describe. You gave me that special moment when I was 6 years old and changed my life forever. So it meant a lot to, I know, myself and everyone here that you were able to come on today.
Well, I appreciate it, but I want to tell you something. I don't have any less time in the day than you do. I think we both have 24 hours, but it was just great to talk to you, but it's also very special to talk to one of the great people, Jeff Burris, one of my favorite people in Oscar McBride. And anytime I have a chance to talk to former players, I was with Tim Grunhart and Tom Freeman, and Dave Butler had played a little bit earlier than y'all, and it's always fun to reminisce, and I just want the players to know this, Oscar and Jeff, whatever you need, all you got to do is call. You know that.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you so much, Coach.
You take care, and thank you for having me, and live like a champion today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.